So yeah, this topic came up this week about potentially, or just trying to see if you would be in favor of shortening baseball games to 7 innings. They're 9 innings normally. This year, there's been a lot of double headers because of the shortened season. They've had to shorten games that are part of double headers to 7 innings. So people started wondering, should we just do this normally? And we have all done some groupthink on this podcast periodically and talked about how awful baseball is. So I feel like it's probably a resounding yes from this group that baseball should be shortened to 7 or fewer innings.
100%.
Okay. Yeah, I figured we would be all in on that one, but it made me wonder, are there other things that we would want to change about other sports? So you could shorten other sports or make other rule changes. And we could go through each sport, football, hockey, baseball, basketball, if you want, and see what you guys think, if there's anything that you would change. So anything for football?
For football, I would change a lot. Take away field goals. Like, take away the goalposts. Like, they should all be retractable goalposts. Take them down unless somebody wants to kick a 56-plus yard field goal, because those are exciting. I guess in college, it's like 40 or something, but like just depending on what team you're watching, because college field goals can be exciting.
College
once
kickers
you get past 40 yards, college kickers those are a good time. But if we're talking NFL, it's like the kickers are so good, it's boring. And then coaches like coach around kicking field goals. And I think that makes the game so boring. You have all these great athletes on the field and they're going to play to kick a field goal from like the 10. And I'm like, why am I watching this game if that's what we're going to do? So I say you take away the goalposts and they play for 4 downs unless they're going to kick from 56 yards or more out. That's my big rule change.
I'm in favor of that. I think both professional and college football need to be shorter, especially as much as I love them both. College football games are way too long. Like 3.5 hours is too long. The stoppages for first down, that has to go away. The clock has to run more. When a player goes out of bounds, you've got the clock stop, and then it's got to start running again outside of 2 minutes. I think the things that the NFL has done a little bit to try to speed up the game, college football has to embrace a little bit more, but both of them, I think, have to speed up. They just take way too long. Like 3 hours is about as long as a football game should go. Anything over that, it's just too long, because I want to watch more football, right? But when you're spending 3.5 hours on a game, especially if you're at a game, that's an all day activity, and fall nights are coming up and I want to do fall night things after a football game. So I think it needs to be sped up. You talked about the field goals. I think you're right. Field goals in college after like longer than 40 yards are exciting, but the hashes being wider in college football makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Just stop that. Just make them narrow like the NFL is as well. I think that needs to be a big change to, I don't know, make it a little bit more realistic. If anything, flip them. I don't care. Flip them. Make them wider in the NFL.
Yeah, I think you should do that in the NFL. Make them wider. Make it harder. Another one I had for football was just like, why is there a penalty against having, like, why is there an ineligible man downfield? Like, why can't your center go out and catch a pass? Who cares? Why can't you do that? More fat guy touchdowns. That's what I want.
A good one. That's a good one. Also, I think you should get 3 timeouts for the entire game. You don't get 3 each half. Give me 3 the entire game. Use them better. You had months, weeks, and even more days to prepare for that game. And if you need to stop the clock 6 times because you can't figure something out right then, that's on you. You get 3 and that's it.
That's a really good one, because I hate that they get so many timeouts when all you do in football is talk. You huddle up, like you get time between each play. You know what I mean? And like hockey and basketball, you don't get that. The turnover, you're going down the other field. There's a turnover in football. The game stops for 5 minutes. Like, what were you doing?
Yep.
What do you need to do timeout for? There's like no momentum in football like that. Like, everything doesn't change. Yeah, I'm full with you on that. Another one with football is I hate that you can end a game with like real time left on the clock just because a team doesn't have timeouts. I think that the clock should stop with 2 minutes left every time. So then you have to run plays. Like, you have to run the clock out. Like, physically, you can't just, take 2 steps back and kneel, and then like a minute and 59 seconds of the game just goes, and it's like you won by a touchdown. Like, that's real time in a game. They could just make the game more exciting. And I get the arguments of that, like saying, oh, well, you fought for 60 minutes, whatever. But it just sucks when you see a game, just end like that, when you could have actually seen some real action. Whether it been the team just getting like 3 first downs and it's over. But, I'd rather see more action than the victory formation with 2 minutes left.
Yeah, kneeling sucks.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So how about hockey? One that I had for hockey was, I don't understand why guys can't kick pucks into the net or like bat them in with their hand. I don't think you should be able to grab it and throw it. But like, if you're coordinated enough to be on a sheet of ice and be able to kick a puck in, who cares? Do it. Let them do it.
Yeah, I love that one. And it's not going any faster than it would off their stick. It's going slower. So if that's on the goaltender, if he can't make that type of reaction, that's a really good one. I like that.
I like that too, because even the way that what people don't understand is like, just hockey players are so freaking good and know where it's going. And it's like, I feel like Sidney Crosby could like literally ricochet it off of somebody's skate, and that was actually him shooting it. This is not an accident. This is him like, no, that's open, I can do this. And I'm like, what's wrong with that? I don't see the problem.
I feel like we've already, Dan, do you have any others for hockey?
I think hockey's actually done a pretty good job in the last couple of years in adjusting some of the rules, the way that icing gets called, taking away things like the 2-line pass, which was the dumbest thing in the history of that sport. But I think they've done actually a pretty decent job in adjusting the rules to make it more watchable. The games are much quicker, which is enjoyable as well. I think we've talked about the game presentation of all sports, and I think hockey can do better, and they're kind of being forced into ways maybe this year to be able to do that, to enhance. Everybody says hockey's hard to follow. If you're not a diehard hockey fan, it's hard to follow while watching on TV. So I think there's enhancement that they can do in like game production. But the only other thing I could think of is maybe limiting the size of goaltender pads. And that's only because goalies are getting bigger now, right? 6'2", 6'3", 6'4". These guys are getting huge. So you put those pads on them that were regulation 15 years ago, now looks ridiculous because that they have to fit these huge guys. So maybe slimming those down a little bit so we can get a little bit more offense in the game.
Maybe bring back the glow puck too. Maybe do that. I think we've talked enough about baseball in the past. So in the effort of time, we would just change most of it.
Yeah, the season needs shortened too. The season and the games. Both.
Season needs shortened. And honestly, there should be a rule in baseball that, because I covered a lot of baseball, sat in press boxes a lot, and it's just like, if you can see where a game's going, especially when you're playing somebody like the Pirates who, pretty much suck all the time. Mm-hmm. It's like after 4 innings, I feel like the umps should have an option just to be like, all right, we're done here. This was fun. Let's have a good one. I really think so. Because in baseball, a lot of them are just like, this is happening. You know what's going on, and we're just sitting there bored for 9 innings for no reason. I feel like in the 6th inning, they should just be able to like, okay, all right, everybody, go home. We're done here. Pirates lost 4-0.
Well, they do that in boxing, right? Like if one guy's just getting the shit kicked out of him, they can call it.
Yeah, they can be like, he's not fighting anymore. And it's like, after the Pirates are down 4-0 in the first, we know it's over. We know it's done. Yeah. Like, they're not fighting anymore. Call it.
And look how exciting this shortened season and shortened games have turned out to be. Like the Slam Diego Padres that nobody would think would even make the playoffs are going to be like in contention for the World Series. They made all these trades at the trade deadline. They're the most exciting team in baseball right now. It's not enough for me to watch it, but it's enough for me to at least pay attention to them. And it's exciting that these teams that you thought were going to be at the top maybe necessarily aren't, and other teams are being more competitive and they're making moves. They're like, yeah, so what? It's a shortened season. The World Series is still going to count if we win it. So there's proof in the pudding right there that I think it could work.
Last one is basketball, and I will go with this one and say I want them to raise the hoop. You're 7 feet tall. Most of you are between 6'8" and 7 feet. I'm not impressed that you can dunk anymore because you barely have to jump. I want to make it a little more difficult.
Okay.
And these teams are scoring 150 points a game. Like, we have to do something. We have to make it more challenging.
The only problem with that is
there's no problem. There's no
shooting of the game is the problem. The shooting is the problem. You have to change.
I know. let's separate the men from the boys here and see who can really adjust to it. Remember
Wow.
they used to do those celebrity games during
Yes.
like the NBA All
The
Star
rock and
Weekend,
jock, yeah.
and they would have like the higher goals, and you made more points if you shot higher. Let's do that.
Wow.
Oh, what I want to end, what I love to end in basketball is just like all of the fouling that goes on, especially at the end of college basketball games. And when the game's close and you're trying to extend the game, I want people to get kicked out for that.
Yeah.
That's all. I really just want people just to get kicked out of the game for that, because I just feel like it extends the game, and I get the strategy part of it, but like nobody wants to watch people shoot foul shots all night.
Right.
Nobody wants that. So
Yeah, like I don't know how you limit that where
you can't.
like do you like in the NBA, do you make it 5 fouls before you're out like college is and then you reduce it in college, or maybe the bonus is like something even worse. Like there's a more opportunity for them to score more points, and you're just like, this isn't worth it. This isn't worth it. I'm not shooting free throws anymore. Maybe that's what it is, like a bigger threat into the bonus. Once you get into bonus territory, it's just like they're just getting points or something like that. But I think maybe even they've talked about this, extending the 3-point line, right? But I think not only extending the 3-point line, I think you need to have a 4-point line. I think at half court or right inside a half court, give me a 4-point line. I want to see some people chucking some shots up, because Steph Curry is going to have himself a field day out there, and that could be interesting, because those dudes can make it. Those shots are ridiculous, and the fact that they're good for only 3 when they're 15, 18 feet behind the line is absolutely crazy. But that was the biggest one I had too, was somehow being able to cut down on the fouling, because of you can go through a game quickly, and then those last 2 to 3 minutes can take half of an hour, and that's just crazy. So
yeah,
being able to cut back on that, I think would help the game a lot.
Luka Doncic is hitting threes from like the Black Lives Matter logo. He should get more than 3 points for that.
You got to get a bonus there. You got to get something. Yeah, give him more points.
Yeah. And just like Dame Lillard pulling, like the game that they beat the Lakers in that series, like he's pulling up from the logo. Pulling up from the logo. There's no heave. It's just like, no, this is where I'm shooting from. It's just, yeah, it's ridiculous what guys can, what those guys can do now from deep. But yeah, this was good. This was a very brunchy conversation.
It was.